Hello everyone. Today we will be tracing the output for this code snippet. Out of these four available options, we need to choose the correct sequence in which we get the output. We compile and run our code, then the control goes to the JVM. Our JVM is responsible for the class loading stuff. During class loading, the static blocks gets executed. Remember this, and the parent class is always loaded before the child classes. So let's see what happens here. Initially the oops class would be loaded because the main method is inside the oops class, so everything inside here would be loaded now. Then the control will go to the child class, but its parent will be loaded first. So the parent class would be loaded first. But before loading the parent class, the JVM would observe that this also has another parent, which is his grandparent. Now the control would go to the grandparent. So everything here, since this does not extend anything, so everything here would be loaded. Remember one thing, the constructor does not get executed during the class loading time. Okay, so nothing would happen here. My control would come here, JVM would come here and start loading this parent class. But it would observe that it has a static block here. We know that a static block is executed during class loading time. So this thing would be printed, that is our B option would be printed first. Static block of parent. Then this constructor won't be executed now. My JVM control comes here in class child. Now everything present here is loaded. It does not has any static block, so we need not to worry about. By now all the classes are loaded. All the class loading stuffs are over. Now our JVM would execute this line of code. Here a child object is created and thus a default constructor of this child would be called. So this constructor would be called. Now we should know that every default constructor in its first line, it is not visible, but the constructor, what it does, at the first line of every default constructor, it writes a super keyword like this. Okay, at every line of any default constructor you would find this, but it is not visible. Now what is the job of the super keyword is it calls the immediate parent's default constructor. So it will call the immediate parent of child, which is parent itself. So it will call the default constructor of parent, which is this. Now since this is also a default constructor, in its first line it would also have a super keyword like this. So now what is the immediate parent of this parent class? So immediate parent of this parent class is grandparent. So now a call would go to the default constructor of this grandparent. So yes, this default constructor also will have a super keyword, but it does not extend anything. So will it give it an error? No, this won't give an error because by default, any classes which is not extended, it by default extends the object class. So that is another topic. Let us skip that for now. So this won't give an error. But now what would happen? At first, this constructor would be executed. So after B, my output would be grandparent constructor, which is this C. Then the control comes back here to the constructor which we have left. We were at this line. Now the line below this would be executed, which is this D parent constructor would be printed. Then we would go to this child class constructor, and once this line of execution is over, then this would be printed, which is child constructor. So our output is BCDA, which is